Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas. Today I have with me David Schraub, longtime actuary, FSA, and founder of David Schraub Actuarial Consulting. So David, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks you for having me. How are you?
I am doing very, very well. And we met originally at ITC 2023. Thank you for reminding me of that. And at a few different conferences while you worked for the SOA. And finally, earlier this year, during exchange of messages, you mentioned that you've started your own consulting firm, and there's plenty of actuarial consultants out there, but you're definitely taking a way different approach, basically focusing on AI and ethics.
Yep.
And I'm a non-technical guy. I'm an insurance guy. I did start college in computer science, ended up not graduating in that, and ended up with a degree in management information systems. So I know enough about the technical side to like be able to talk to you guys who speak it better. One thing that has been very interesting from my perspective is how in the last, it's probably 2 years now since ChatGPT really broke into the scene. It feels like 2 years ago, 1.5 years, 2 years ago. It seems that it's all I hear about anymore. Every interview, or almost every interview, is they're now calling themselves an AI company, and they're trying to do something usually with Gen AI. Recently had a great conversation where we did talk about the difference between the Gen AI side and the old style of AI. But nobody that has been on is focused on on ethics related to AI. And if the hype is even 20% correct, we need to get this piece right.
Yeah.
So yeah. What led you to start a consulting firm specifically for AI ethics?
So there are many things. So yes, you're completely correct. I'm an actuary on my own right, background on the life insurance side, and I do consult sometimes on actuarial matter. But since I left the SOA, AI and ethics, I really feel like it's critical to get it right, because that's our chance to avoid a dystopian society. So as you said, you have to separate the Gen AI to the old AI. I mean, even if it's old, there are a few regulations that are popping up. NAIC AI Bulletin, the Colorado SB 21169, and others that are kind of hey, be careful with AI. It can really discriminate against protected classes the way you don't realize, and you need to make sure that you're ethical. And now insurtech companies were used to leverage AI as a selling point. Well, AI company is great, and now AI become toxic. I'm AI. I don't want to talk to you because you may bring a bias in my company, and I will have to do all those tests. And so I'm here. I'm helping regulators to articulate really what they want. I'm helping insurtech and companies to do the right thing, and trying to avoid a dystopian society. That's really good.
Okay.
And by the way, I forgot to mention French accent, which is why I'm fully qualified in Europe as well, and a few other credentialed, CRA, MA, actuaire qualifié, that type of thing. But that's for the resume. That's not for the conversation here.
Okay. All right. When it comes to our world of insurance,
Mm-hmm.
how could AI go wrong compared to prior technologies that we've brought in?
I mean, you heard about redlining, and if you are in this zip code, you're paying more. People can say, "Oh, we don't do redlining, but we do this," and so using a different variable, different things to still discriminate against inappropriately. In saying that you're discriminating against risk, which is appropriate, and then in fact you're discriminating against a protected class, which is not appropriate. So regulation is right, but let's say you need to be careful, really, what we're talking about. Proxy discrimination and unfair, unjust discrimination, all those concepts are getting refined to really spell out what you are supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. I am chairing the AI subcommittee of the American Academy of Actuaries, and we're working on those type of definitions. The committee on professionalism is soon going to issue a paper that I help co-write on how actuaries can make sure that they are using Gen AI appropriately and not getting caught like you remember that lawyer who was quoting a case that didn't exist?
Non-existent cases, yes.
Exactly. You don't want that. So that's also part of professionalism. You want actuaries to be right, and to if they are trusting AI, to make sure that they are trusting appropriately. Make sense?
Okay. So as an industry, it sounds like we are not quite like the standards haven't yet been they're in process. And I'm guessing the regulators are even behind that, like even further behind that work.
They are let's say the technology is moving forward, that's for sure. And the regulatory community and the insurance industry is catching up, both in terms of how can we use it, how can we use it appropriately, how can we use it effectively, all that type of things. I wrote with the CS and the SOA a paper on regulatory approach across jurisdictions. And you can see the EU is going really top down across industry. Here are what you should do, shall do, and the US. I mean, of course, state regulation and so on. There are like 900 current regulation on AI and ethic to try to do the right thing. Department of Labor, US Treasury, this state, that state. It's a bottom-up approach, and it's really bubbling, and the standard is not yet set.
Okay, so an extremely tricky time, an extremely I want to say dangerous time for any organization in our industry, where if we don't bring the technology on, we fall behind. And given how fast it's moving, that could be a gigantic deal to fall behind. But if we don't do it extremely carefully, we can end up in trouble once the regulation does fully show up.
Yep.
Okay.
How do you crack the nut is really what your question is?
Yes, that's a tightrope. Exactly. How do we walk that tightrope?
Yeah. Let's say proof of concept. Check if it makes sense, and then taking a step back. Do I really want that? am I handling? Is my risk and my cost commensurate with the benefit? That type of things. So I mean, do a proof of concept and see if Gen AI for fraud for trying to find a fraudulent claim makes sense. Do a proof of concept and do and see if Gen AI or traditional AI makes sense for marketing campaign. And check with your legal and compliance. Check with, I mean, solo actuaries like me. Check to make sure it makes sense.
Okay. How is first the actuarial community taking taking this new reality of AI playing a big deal and having to be careful with the ethics?
So the actuarial community is, I mean, is puzzled with that. It's always looking first at what's in it for me. Is it coming stretching away from their valuation and pricing standard bread and butter, and looking a little bit to rein in the data scientists, because data scientists don't have code of conduct, they don't have risk management in their core, so sometimes they are doing a little bit of a going a little bit too fast with that checking if you're not breaking things that are not appropriate. And then so that's the role of the actual community. But also the role of the actual community is to communicate appropriately to upper management, to the insurtech, to others, to say like, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense. Please explain to me why this, how this will work, and make sure it smells right.
We hadn't talked about data science, and that does bring in an interesting question. I spent a few years at my last employer going to actuarial conferences as a recruiter, and at that time, that was 2018 through COVID. So 2018 through 2019, every actuarial conference, lots and lots and lots of conversations around data science. And clearly, my impression as a non-actuary is the actuarial community is, at least at that time, uncomfortable with data science, which are forward-looking instead of actuarial based. But they knew that they couldn't just ignore the tools, right? That the tools were powerful and starting to make a big difference. Has that gotten better, or is that actually getting worse because of the lack of I wasn't aware that data scientists didn't have a ethical code. Then again, it makes sense because they're not credentialed by a central organization, right? Like you can get a college degree in data science, but they're not. It's not currently a credentialed profession.
Yep. So there are many aspects there. Okay, so first, yes, the credentialed aspect and the code of ethic is one aspect, and that's what actuaries will put forward. There is a little bit of how to say land grabbing and defending and turf grabbing hey, actuaries are the most sexy profession, go to the actual profession, go and take the exams and so on. And some students realize like, oh, I could go to all those exams. Oh, those exams are like hazing. I have to do that many exams and that many work to get to do something and do evaluation. And versus I go to data science and I can get almost the same money and go from industry to industry and be it's more sexy. So there is a little bit of turf and land grabbing type of tension here. Actuaries are trying to position themselves into we know business and we know numbers, so we can be we can go toe to toe to the with a data scientist, and we can go to we can talk business to upper management. So there is a little bit of positioning. So is data scientist a threat to the actual profession, a partner? How do you play together? There are a lot of discussion, a lot of things there. Let's see. It's different skill sets. So let's work together. Forward looking, backward looking. You have to be careful also when the past is not representative of the future. If not, you're gonna get automatized away. So if you are just taking last year's results, doing the same process again, and manipulating some files and get the same result, you will get automated away. But cyber insurance, space insurance, pandemic management, that type of things, you need to be an actuary to understand how the pieces works together, how the asset, the liability works together. So you will still have a job if you're an actuary. So I mean, maybe a complicated answer, and I drift a little bit in my answer, but we're working together, and we are both using the past to predict the future. I mean, how do you train a model? You're using the past to predict the future.
Okay. Are you focused on a particular type of insurance organization, or particular like regional, super regionals? I know you're doing both P&C and life, but what is kind of the target market?
The target market, I mean, as a good consultant, the target market is who wants to hire me. But I mean, more jokingly, David Schraub Actual Consultancy. It may not be yet a name brand as other actual firms or accounting firms and the like. So, and I am a solo actuary. I don't have a bench of 20, 30 people. Okay, sorry. Let me start that one again.
Okay.
As a solo actuary, my target market is different from large consulting firms with established network. I have my own network of independent consultants, lawyers and programmers where I can who I can bring in an engagement. But my sweet spot is small to mid-sized companies. It's review, it's insurtech, it's so review and assessment of compliance to the AI and ethic regulation, that type of things. I operate in the US myself, but I can also operate in in Europe, and I have partners that operate in Canada where we can have joint assignments on those type of topics. Health, life, PNC, all of those are relevant to this AI and ethic regulation and that and they're all relevant, especially for the individual market. Commercial group, that's not really relevant at this point on this AI discrimination regulation.
Okay. My audience is probably PNC heavy.
Yep. That's
what are kind of the biggest things you want them thinking about when it comes to implementing AI?
Implementing AI is a large, broad thing. I would say doing neural network and K-cluster and those AI and ML tools to do pricing and reserving, you need to do discrimination testing, and you need to do it appropriately. You need to have an ethics committee. You need to have, all of the shebang, and that's really important. And really, don't hide behind the technology and do a smoke screen of my p-value is this much. Like, do the right thing. So that's one thing. For the insurtech companies, similar to SOC 2 compliance audits, you need to have a bias testing audit to make sure that you are a good guy and you're not introducing bias to the carrier that you're going to contract with. If not, the carrier is not going to contract with you. That's a stable stake now. What else can I tell you about the PNC world? Test, proof of concept, use a 6 months renewal rate, which is a fast turnaround to test ideas. But I mean, clearly the combined ratio is not good, so you really need to make sure that your model is accurate and you are not losing your shirt. You need to do appropriate, let's say, you need to appropriately take into account climate change in your CAT model. You need to do, that type of things. But that's not AI and ethic, but that's an appropriate component that your predictive modeling tool may not capture appropriately because they use the past to get calibrated, and the future is not really looking exactly like the past.
It feels like we're seeing exponential change.
Yep.
Like absolutely and it feels harder and harder to predict and harder to prepare for. And in our industry, we're used to reacting, and we tend to wait until we have years and years and years of data before properly reacting.
That is true to some extent. That is true to some extent, but I'll say no. I mean, carriers are exiting the California market because they cannot make money, and the regulation is what it is, and so on. So I mean, no, you're making bold moves, not completely on a reacting mode. You are updating your cat model in order to predict trends. So I mean, you're not completely reacting, um, but you need to fit your market.
All right.
Does that make sense?
it it does. It's tricky. Um, I am glad that with all the change happening and with the introduction of which is a really fast introduction of AI tools over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So glad that I am more a commentator on our industry and not a decision maker. My role's a lot more fun. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but if I were a decision maker, I am very glad that the work is being done to make sure that we implement this right.
Pilot program, proof of concept. You cannot skip those tests. You cannot skip those tests and steps. Those are extremely important. You have to say no to a project because it looks good on the paper, but it's not appropriate, or it's not clear. Um, yeah.
All right. David, thank you so much for your time today. When this goes live, I'll tag you on LinkedIn. Um, and yeah, again, glad to hear that somebody's working on this problem, and it makes me feel a lot better that uh, that it's somebody with an actuarial background, because you guys really understand the deep nuts and bolts of what we do in insurance, uh, not just the technology piece.
I mean, thank you for that. It's important, and it's critically important that the industry is getting it right. Um, you want to be on the front page journal for the right reason and not the wrong reason, and uh, that is a critical piece.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.